worried that you might be the cool kid? You wear the latest fashions on top of all the trends. Or have you ever worried you were too much in the mainstream? Always so generic, more normal than your friends. Well, we've devised a test to put to rest your fears. There's no need to panic if you lend us your ears. Tonight you can sleep easy after all that you've heard. Cause if you like the show, then you're probably a nerd. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all. With Tyler, Phil, and Boris. Oh, Canon, it's Canon, it's all in Canon.
Hey, everyone, welcome to the It's Canon podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things geek, the podcast where we talk about all things everything, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything, and the best part of it all is that it is all in canon. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and as always, I'm joined by Phil.
Back from the dead, Phil.
Pretty much, huh?
Yeah, last episode, I think we waxed on a little bit about our health issues, and wouldn't you know, I shouldn't have waxed on as much as I did. So,
right,
kind of came to get me, and I spent a couple visits to the hospital later, and I'm still fighting through it and getting scans and getting all kinds of stuff done. So, luckily, I am very happy with the fact that we live in a country called Canada. And all of this has cost me a grand total of $0 for all of these great, bone scans and radioactive tracers injected in me. And the bad news is I didn't turn into the Hulk or Spider-Man. But,
yes.
I did get last week a good, healthy dose of radiation injected into me. So,
well, there you go. There you go. Sounds like it's been a pretty crazy time for you, to say the least.
It's kind of funny because in one sense you get a lot of time to just sit around and heal, and it's great for watching shows. But at the same rate, I'll tell you, just as and many of our listeners know this feeling, there's nothing worse in this world than having to worry about your health. Mm-hmm. And it makes everything like work, etc., like the everyday stressors in life, seem so much more small when you're actually confronted with, serious health issues, whether that be with a loved one or yourself, that type of thing. And it's my heart goes out to anyone who's undergoing the battle, and I know we all go through it, and I know that you've had your battles, and it's tough. It is a tough life we live sometimes. So, but you just gotta keep fighting, right? You got to keep on pushing through. So,
exactly. And that is also the reason why we love to do this show. This show gives us the opportunity to just lose ourselves, talk about bullshit, have fun, and all that amazing stuff. That's why we do this show. That's why I'm honored to do this show with you, Phil. So let's just lose our minds for a couple hours, talk about bullshit, catch up, and see what's happening in the world of geek. Because honestly, I think sometimes now more than ever, people just need a fucking distraction. And that's what this show aims to provide, a distraction.
If it ain't your health, it's what's on the news. So,
right?
Yeah,
that's what it feels like nowadays.
Weird time, man. Weird time in the world.
Really is.
Again, up here in Canada, man, we've been walking the plank. So luckily, the tariffs have been avoided, but it was looking like there was going to be some choppy water ahead. And,
there's going to be something. We'll see. We'll see what that something is. But yeah, man. All right. So, you've been saying, and you say that earlier you were saying that, as you're going through your health stuff, it's a perfect time to catch up on TV and whatnot. And I fully, wholeheartedly agree with you, because I've been catching up on a lot of TV, doing that sort of stuff. Let's yeah, there's just so much to talk about. World of Geek right now has been crazy, to say the least. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Ubisoft, Sony's state of play, and what that might mean. We're also going to talk about Diamond, the comic book distributor, because that right now is on the brink of fucking collapse, and we'll see exactly what happens with the comic book industry, because that's an industry that's, it's been teetering, to say the least.
Yeah, Tyler was
Yeah.
calling this out years ago,
Oh
especially.
yeah, especially as he dealt with them directly, right? And knowing the importance of Diamond. But this is why it's really bad having one company that literally controls it all.
Yeah.
But before we go through all that fun stuff, Phil, let's talk about us. What's going on? What have you been watching, playing, reading, etc.?
I'm the newest show that I'm most excited to partake in. I think it's Adult Swim has done a great job of promoting it, and that is Common Side Effects. And this is a Mike Judge show. So it's all about the bad guy in this. Apparently, I haven't seen an episode yet. I'm looking really forward to it. Probably after we're done here, I'm gonna fire it up and watch an episode or two. It's where the bad guy is the pharmaceutical companies, and apparently the character finds this mushroom that has some amazing side effects, like some amazing health benefits. And I guess it's like a parody journey of how big pharma pushes that away. It's done in, Mike Judge, the guy who does Idiocracy, the guy who did King of the Hill, the guy, he's just a legend, in cartoons. And I'm really curious to see. And he also did that one Silicon Valley, right? That was Mike Judge. That was a live action show. And I really enjoy his sense of humor. I really enjoy his sense and sensibilities. So I'm looking forward to a new animated show by him. I've been collecting a lot of Star Wars Lego. Cannot lie.
I saw.
Yeah. I sent you that $600 worth right there. But the great thing is, well, $600 retail. I'm not paying retail on these things because we have an amazing thing in Canada right now where they gave us a tax holiday on toys. And as long as it's not an 18 plus Lego set, Amazon are taking the tax off of it. So you're saving 13% right there. Then you get the Christmas gift card situations and things like that. I ended up getting the $210 Star Destroyer for $150.
That's awesome.
And it's got Cal Kestis in it. So I'm really excited to get that minifig. And, the 25th anniversary. And the other ones, I bought the Skeleton Crew one for $110 off of $170 on deep discount on Amazon. And then the Dark Falcon was on sale. It wasn't as great of a sale, but that one for me, the minifig selection is just so epic. Like where else are you going to get a white Darth Vader? A Jar Jar Binks, a dark side Jar Jar Binks, that dark side Rey, Stoner Luke. Like it's just epic stuff. You're never going to see that kind of stuff again. So
no,
I just went a little bit crazy with some of that because I knew that Christmas was very much my mindset was elsewhere about my health. And I thought, you know what, if I have to undergo surgery or anything more serious, I'm going to really benefit by being able to build those sets. So, but I am sitting on like a stockpile you wouldn't believe. And as well, you can see up behind me, beep, 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 I got the new Moff Gideon helmet.
Yeah, I saw that. Love that so much.
Yeah. So that was a weird one. It's definitely not a Mandalorian helmet, but it kind of is. So it's a well-built model. I'll give it that. But I'm a little more into the Stormtroopers and the Clone Troopers just because of especially like that biker scout that I have in the background there. That one just slays me because I just remember that as a kid, right? That was, and for you, it must be some of these clone helmets too, right? Because
Yeah.
this would have been the big screen kind of things, that kind of shows that really draw your attention. But other than that, it's been mostly collecting. I don't know that I've really invested too much other than Skeleton Crew came to a conclusion. I'm sure we'll talk about that. And then a lot of fringe stuff. It's been nothing really too deep down. I rewatched a lot of the Marvelverse stuff over Christmas. Rewatched there was a nonstop marathon on some of the channels. So I rewatched all the Thor movies. I rewatched, all the new Spider-Man movies, all that kind of stuff. I caught a lot of sci-fi and a lot of superhero stuff. How about you?
I've been watching a lot of movies and stuff like that, just catching up on movies. In terms of TV shows, actually, kind of really digging the new Dexter, the prequel series. That's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been good. It's been good. I've been enjoying that. That show on Netflix, American Primeval. That one is awesome. Absolutely fucking awesome. Really well done. Really enjoyed that show. Couple episodes left to go on that, but that show's been great. My friend last week, I think it was last week, I don't know, all the weeks are kind of melting together at this point, watched Exo Kitty, Netflix teen bopper show. Very, very much like a CW show. It's basically a K-drama, an American K-drama that takes place in Korea.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. But it's a fun little show. Honestly, it's just mindless bullshit that gets you lost for a couple hours. That's what I'm really enjoying watching. Show that I'm actually about to start season 2, and that's Severance on Apple TV. Really looking forward to that one. Did you watch season 1 of that?
I haven't finished season 1. It freaked me out a little bit in a good way, but I'm not scared of it. It was hitting a little close to corporate life. You know what I mean? Like it
right? Oh,
the rub is huge. Like I'm like, whoa, this is put me in a dangerous mood. Because I gotta say, things are a little bit crazy at work, as life is, right? But that one definitely stood out as something that I'm looking forward to. And then when I saw season 2 drop, I'm thinking I gotta catch up on that.
Yeah, so Severance, Apple TV is very good. Also on Apple TV, the new season of Mythic Quest just came out last week.
Ooh, I kind of dropped off last season, so I gotta pick that back up.
Same here. It wasn't the best season, but I think I'm going to revisit it and see what's going on there. We're going to be, really interested on that one, on Mythic Quest.
Did you finish Shrinking season 2?
Oh, absolutely. What a show.
I gotta say, no real spoilers here, but that Harrison Ford scene where he's at the Thanksgiving dinner and he drops that speech, that took a long time for me to stop crying. Like,
yeah,
that was very emotional. Apparently it was very emotional on set. I've seen some outtakes on Apple TV where they're like the fellow actors just were blown away by how well he did that. And he deserves to win an award for that, like a Grammy or whatever the hell it is, the daytime TV ones.
An Emmy. He is
Grammy's
amazing
music.
in that show. He's absolutely great in that show. I love Harrison Ford in that show. He's so good. He's so fucking good. Such a good show. Such a fun show.
I enjoyed him. I thought his comedic role was better in season 1, but his emotional role, his evolution as a character to become much more Gravity, a much bigger gravity well, is really impressive in season 2.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
season
he's been
1
doing
was
really
just
good.
nonstop hilarious bits with him. But now oh man, I'm looking forward to season 3 of that. And
Yeah.
as well, they've started
Uh,
filming. They're going to start filming next month. Ted Lasso season 4, or maybe this month.
yep.
It's February.
That's this month. This month, it's they're going
Yeah.
back at it. A show that I kind of binged through Christmas, 6 seasons worth. Really quick watch, really fun watch on Netflix, at least here in Canada. Superstore, really funny fucking show.
That looked good. That looked
It's
really
really
good.
good. Yeah,
I remember
underrated.
when it got canceled, people were upset. Like when it finished, like people were upset because it had legs.
It did, but you know what? It's one of those shows, in my opinion, that it ended at the right time. A lot of shows overstay their welcome. Like even, let's be honest, even How I Met Your Mother and things like that
Oof.
overstayed its welcome. By the end, it was running on
Shoot
empty.
me now. Shoot me now.
Yeah, take me out
I
back.
agree.
Take take it to the glue factory. Like that's
Same with what was it? The one Big Bang Theory. Last few seasons, man. Oh, I just remember watching the last 2 seasons maybe, and it's like it's not even trying to be funny anymore. It's just a drama. It's just what kind of crap this week is Benny going to get into with you know what I mean? Like I'm just wow, this is just drama. Like this is just drama. It's not fun anymore. It used to be all about the geekdom and the everything like that, and now it's just relationships.
that's the evolution of a lot of sitcoms, right? Like they evolve so much that by the end, it's nothing like what the show started off as. You know, like I a perfect example of that is Roseanne.
Yeah, very good point.
Right,
very good point.
Home Improvement, like especially when you have kids in the show, right? Like it's hard to maintain because they have to introduce new characters because the biggest dynamic of shows like that are the kids, right? So they always have to reintroduce and introduce characters down the road to make up for the loss of said kids. You know, and even the Cosby Show. You know, we're allowed to talk about that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, it's like, you know, they had to bring Raven Simone down the road and write her in because all the kids grew up. Home Improvement, they had to bring in the nieces because their kids grew up.
I suppose as well as an audience, to be fair, we demand it to evolve. And that's going to be the natural evolution path. But, you know, I live in that bubble where it's kind of funny. I was talking to one of my doctors, and my doctor told me, like I said to her, my favorite show is like Bob's Burgers. Because it's like The Simpsons. Things don't have to change, right? It's they just keep on writing it, and it's like suspended animation for fans, right? It's like, okay, well, at least Bob's Burgers, they're not going to get older. They're not going to, you know, Gene's still going to make farts, things like that. And I'm just like, and she turned to me and she blew me away because she said, I love Bob's Burgers, but I like me some Big Mouth on Netflix.
Big Mouth is a great show. Fucking great show.
The first season of Big Mouth was just gold. Every episode. I'm just like, I had to go back to her this week or last week, and I'm like, did I hear you right in saying that you liked Big Mouth? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's a little bit off color, you know, like that's a little bit out there. And she's like, I know. And I'm like,
but that's sometimes, honestly, Phil, like that's what I mean about like mindless numbing my body, forgetting about everything, not spending money because fuck, everything's expensive right now. And like ever since my ankle's been getting better, I've just been wanting to go out more, kind of making up for lost time and stuff like that, right? One of my friends, she finally has a lot of time to hang, so we've been doing that, you know, things like that, right? Anyways, but I just like getting lost in stuff. Something I did want to say about Superstore is a lot of sitcoms have shitty endings. TV shows in general have very shitty endings. I would say that Superstore has one of the best TV endings I have ever seen, ever. Maybe the best.
Nice. I did try a number of times to get into that show, and I always enjoyed episodes that I saw. I just never caught on to it. I think it's because that was when it was first coming out, and they were experimenting with how they'd release it or something like that. But I might have to go back and give it a try if I can fit time in between Bob's Burgers and whatever else I'm watching.
Yeah, this past weekend, along with American Primeval, I was watching that new O.J. Simpson documentary.
Oh, interesting.
It is a very interesting watch, to say the least.
I lived through that, man. Oh, I remember.
I know, same here. I was a kid,
yeah.
but I remember watching the news every single day because my parents were big news junkies, and just seeing updates each and every single day, like especially before the arrest, before the Broncos stuff, leading up to that, right?
Yeah.
And then the Broncos. I'll never forget that night, Friday night, one of the craziest, apparently. And that's like, okay, so I'll tell you the stat. And I just remember reading this once, and it makes sense. Apparently, that was the busiest night ever in history for pizza delivery takeouts, was the night of O.J. Simpson's Bronco chase.
Interesting. Well,
also remember, the NBA finals were on as that was happening, or right before. So,
it's a combo.
And
double punch.
Yeah.
But
exactly. So yeah.
If it doesn't fit, you must have quit.
I'll never forget that. So weird. It's just so weird. I remember being in elementary school and a teacher barges into my class because, that was safe back then. And essentially said, they let him free. They let him free. And everyone knew what he was talking about. It's just so weird. It's such a weird time, And it's so weird because like I see my life in three distinct phases now, pre 9/11, post 9/11, and post COVID.
Yeah. That's an interesting breakdown for me. I probably have another segment. I do recall because I think this past week or so, I thought I saw it in the news. That was the anniversary of one of the shuttle disasters. And I remember
Discovery.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I remember when shuttle launches were something that you at school, we would all gather and watch them. And that one was like, I just remember like, how come it's on fire? You know what I mean? Like just the shock of it and just like collectively having to sit there with all these kids crying and just trying to figure out because they amped it up so much. And then all of a sudden after that, it was like, we're not going to show the shuttle launches anymore.
All right. So you're talking about Challenger because that's happened in front of everyone's eyes at school back in 1986.
Yeah, I was in grade 6, so that would be 86.
Yeah, apparently the female on board was supposed to go to my brother's school when she got back. So there was a lot of interest in that Challenger.
She was Canadian. It was like one of the first female Canadians to go up
in LA. No, we're talking LA.
Oh,
we're talking about in LA.
Oh,
yeah. You're thinking of Roberta Bondar.
Bondar, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you're thinking of Roberta Bondar. No. This is in LA.
Yeah.
So everyone watched it live. That was probably the last time that they showed that live.
Yeah.
And then so that happened January 28th, 1986. I mentioned Discovery because I remember Discovery 20 years ago, February 1st, and that's the shuttle that blew up on its way back from space.
Right.
That was February 1st, 2003.
Man, I feel old. That's the only thing I could say is I am fortunate in that my grades stuck with the year for a really long time. So 86 was grade 6, 87 was grade 7.
That's how everyone
8.
Born in the 5s, right?
Yeah.
I was born in 85, so the same happened with me.
I was born 74, but I didn't go to you know what I mean, just because I was born so early in 74. I got a head
Yeah.
start on things. It was weird. I'm the old
Yeah, it
dude
was
in
back
class.
then. Yeah,
Yeah.
back then it was based on
Yeah,
the
your
school year
birthday
as
and
opposed to
yeah.
good old times. And yeah, but that's that, man. All right, let us jump. Anything else you want to talk about before we jump to things?
No, I'm curious to get onto our docket because all of these are really interesting topics to me.
Yep. All right, let us start with some comic book talk. It's something that it's been a while since we've talked about. And to be honest, it's not that I don't like them or don't want to talk about them. It is that when Tyler and I shifted from comic books, we wanted to put that in the back burner for a little bit, but it just always stayed in the back burner, oddly enough. But we should talk more comic books here on the show. We should talk about what we're reading, what we're liking, things. I know we do. I know we do.
Celebrate it,
especially with Fearless Fred.
Fearless Fred and Jim Zub, and we have some amazing guests that come on periodically and who make great contributions to the art.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Diamond Comic Book Distributor filed for a voluntary petition for relief under Chapter 11. Company received commitments for $41 million in the DIP financing. They filed for relief under Chapter 11 of the United States Bankruptcy Code for the District of Maryland to facilitate the restructuring of his business. Diamond has received a $39 million stalking horse bid from an affiliate of a Universal Distribution. For a Lions game distributor. So essentially, they're being bailed out-ish, but they need to get their shit together. That's essentially what's going on. The reason why I wanted to talk about Diamond, and the reason why we used to talk about Diamond a lot, and we harped on this, and we always said that this was a threat to the comic book industry, is because they were the only, and are, well, they're not the only ones who do this, but they're the only one who a lot of comic book stores rely on for their deliveries and distribution of comic books. Marvel and DC don't go through Diamond anymore, and that really fucking hurt them a few years ago. So they still do distribution for Image, Dynamite, Dark Horse, all those. Biggest one being Image, right, in the creator-owned market. So a lot of books are up in jeopardy, and really, like, a lot of people are commenting saying that this will make or break the entire comic book industry. A lot of people were speculating about this, and here's the most important thing, right? As it stands right now, it's not going to be shutting down. It should be open for the foreseeable future. The company was given the money, and they should allow them to at least doing regular business as it pays down its debts. Having said that, they need to make smart business decisions as they do this, or else, they are fucked. Thoughts on this?
It's difficult for any company to pivot and change like that because obviously there's systemic issues to its business model that have led them to this spot. And it might be a little dash of incorrect assumptions or incorrect business management decisions or indulgent type decisions, but at the end of the day, if the business model is that broken, I don't know that a quick an injection of cash is going to work, like, unless somebody gets in there and starts making some real changes.
Right.
That's,
so funny that you say that. Perfect segue. So it's been reported that only 10% of all Chapter 11 successfully make it through the reorganization. Only 10%.
It's usually a signal that they're borked. Like, honest to goodness, it's very rare that you see. The only times I've seen it where Chapter 11 or the precursors to bankruptcy are issued in the restructuring phases, the only time I've seen it work is when entities take control. You know what I mean? Like they give it over to an equity firm to reshuffle the business model, reinvest. and then take the reins and make it work because they've got money tied up in investors and a fresh new look. And that's the only times that I've seen stuff like this work. If you take the same old broken management or the same old broken model and you just try and throw money at it and say, make it work now, there's a fundamental flaw that led to them suffering. And that flaw
Look at
is
the
probably
banks,
still there. Yeah, exactly.
right? After the
Exactly.
2008 crash, look at the fucking banks.
I can tell you a story about that that'll make you mad.
Oh yeah, you worked with them, so
Yeah, the bank bailouts were coming. The government had announced them, and I was on an elevator in an undisclosed building in Toronto. It was a very large building, very tall. So there was a lot of floors while we were just standing in a very awkwardly cramped elevator. And two of the trader guys were there. And they turned and they were talking to each other, but loud enough that everybody in the elevator could hear, obviously, because it's a tight space. And they said, hey, how about all this money that the federal government's giving us to bail people out? And the other guy just started laughing. He goes, we're not going to give it to people. We're going to reinvest that money into the market, make a few $1 million off of it, and then pay it back when the government asks for it back, interest free. But we're going to take all the interest and make money off of it. Like, screw the little guy. We're not going to help people pay for their houses. We're going to take this money and invest it in ourselves and just take the profits. And that was like all I needed to hear. I'm like, wow, this whole system's a scam. Like,
watch The Big Short.
yes. The best advice I ever got from a trader. He had me come over to his desk and he goes, do you want my best investment advice? And I go, sure, man, tell me. And he goes, don't invest.
Yep.
Oh, those are my people.
It's not made for people like us, right?
Mm-mm.
The game is not made for people like us.
No.
Not to say that you can't do well. But you're not going to be going, hand over fist unless you luck out or have insider information or some bullshit like that.
Well,
which we don't condone here on the show.
The true rub of it is exactly what we've seen a lot in politics lately. The true rub of how things get done in that industry. One guy explained it to me because I used to do a lot of overtimes where we're like moving things and doing lots of work after hours. And sometimes the traders would hang around and they'd help us out or whatever. So we'd have pizza and just shoot the crap, right? And one guy said, you know what? The whole system's rigged because we make money both ways. If we short something, we make money. If we build something up, we make money. And he's just like, the traders are the ones that make the money, no matter if it fails or succeeds. It's you guys with the investment capital that get screwed. He's like, if you give us your money, he's like, you're just paying our fee and we're laughing our way back home in our Porsche. Like, I'm like, damn, that's a good point.
Right?
So yeah. There's my money talk.
I know, right? That's old man pointing at clouds with Phil this week. Going back to the whole Diamond comic distribution fiasco, as I'm going to be calling it from now on, man. Tyler and I, in the first iteration of the show, we used to always say how, the comic book industry, especially how it is today, is kind of like it's almost on its like last legs at this point, right? Yeah. Like it's going to change, it's going to evolve. And I don't know what the future looks like. I really don't know. Well, outside of Marvel and DC, I don't know, how things are going to go.
I can tell you, it's going to go the same way that the bookstores went. All right. You've got bookstores in Canada like Chapters. You've got Barnes and Noble. I don't know, something in the States. Very similar. And you go in and there's lots of books, but there's going to be this area where they sell you a device like a Kobo or a Kindle or whatever it is. And then you get access to the digital storefront. Like, I bought all the Dead Romans comics that Fearless Fred wrote. I bought them day one, but I bought them off of Amazon and got them digitally so that I could read them on my, my color tablet. So I love that because old man Phil with, failing eyes and yada, 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 I can zoom in on it and everything like that. To me, the future is digital. It's not digital for the collectors. I get the collectors are going to want to collect, but I think there's always going to be a distribution avenue in companies like Amazon, etc. Someone will fill the void and take it, and then you've got also, ironically enough, Fearless Fred. I've supported some of his Kickstarters, and the book still shows up in my mailbox. You know what I mean? Like, very well protected, very well, everything's great. Then I'm like, all right, well, this is fantastic because I got something for the bookshelf. And oftentimes Fred's kind of guy who does things where he sends you also a PDF of it.
Yeah.
To thank you for it. So you can boot that up on your tablet, enjoy the thing, and never correct the book. Keep it pristine. Bag it and tag it, right? So, and I did actually get a bunch of comics this year from my brother. I'll show him to that. All Star Wars comics. Really nice stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, he's
the old
got
Marvel stuff.
Some of the old Marvel stuff. He went out and he found some of the old Dark Horse stuff.
Nice.
So I got some of that in the collection. I had to buy a new comic box. It's like going crazy. Oh, which makes me think. Oh, I don't know if you ever want to touch your toe into this, but there's a lot going on with Neil Gaiman lately. I don't know if you saw.
Oh, well, we were going to talk about that. We're 100% going to talk about that.
Sure. Okay, great.
So let's just jump into that now. Neil Gaiman. A lot of accusations coming out about Neil Gaiman. Neil Gaiman slowly getting canceled. His comic books are being canceled. Literally going out of distribution. Netflix has already announced that season 2 of The Sandman has been canceled. I kind of think Netflix was just hoping for something. Hoping for something bad, but looking for an out.
I thought that they said that season 2 is done and they're canceling it going forward. There's no more seasons. I thought the headline that I saw was that 2 is going to happen. Because that's Doll's House.
Yeah, you're right. So season 2 was already filmed. It's ending after this season.
Yeah, we're done with you. And the same with Amazon. They're not going forward with Good Omens anymore after this 3rd season. And I believe Annecy Boys is being canceled as well because that was in a production state. I don't know if it was on Amazon or what, but it was just in the pre-production and they've just canned it. They just said, no, we're done. And the funny thing is, I went down the rabbit hole of what actually happened. Neil, from what I've seen up to a certain point, I tuned it out now. Neil, up until a certain point, he didn't deny that he was doing this. He apologized for getting caught, like for getting exposed, but he didn't deny it. Like he was, having inappropriate relationships with young women and getting his ex-wife to help him set those up and whatnot. Like there is a whole little weird thing happening there. But the guy's creepy, but I liked a lot of his old work. Like, you know what I mean? I still like his books. I'm dying to see Sandman season 2. Such a weird spot for fandom. Like it's
hard.
It really is.
It's really hard.
Like
but
my Sandman collection is like one of my prized possessions, right?
Yeah, I have the original books with the awesome covers.
Yeah, great covers.
Look, obviously, we're going to let the courts do its thing. But till then, right? Like, there's only so much that you can do. There's only so much that it gets. If you actually read the lawsuit, it's a few very disturbing stuff. Like I said, his ex-wife, estranged wife, Amanda Palmer, is named in the suit as well. Essentially setting things up, which is more on the human trafficking side of thing, which is essentially what Vince McMahon is being accused of as well. So just a lot of shitty people doing shitty things, and fuck, man, this world, just we can't have anything nice anymore.
No, and I've got autographed books by him. I've got so much stuff in my fandom from him, and being in circles that knew him. But You also look at the subject matter of what he wrote, because it's a lot of horror and dark stuff. You gotta know that there's a broken guy in there somewhere. Like,
He was a weird guy. I met him a few times, talked to him a few times. If you recall, BlackBerry worked with him around the time that BlackBerry 10 was coming out, right? So he showed up to the offices a couple times and whatnot. But yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he used to love when he was in Toronto. He would always be out in Waterloo, and it wasn't necessarily for BlackBerry, but the guy Dave Sim, who wrote Cerebus, lived out there. And he was good friends with Dave Sim, from what I understood, because I knew a lot of people who knew Dave Sim. And I was collecting Cerebus. I've got a full collection of Cerebus somewhere in my basement, all number one, all like first print issues. And yeah, that Dave had been divorced with his wife, which is where like Cerebus went into a dark place.
Yeah.
Based off of that experience. So I always was like, well, this is an interesting group of writers.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one. Let's talk some video games and video game stuff. So, former Sony Interactive Entertainment Worldwide Studios CEO Sean Layden had said Sony can't get away with launching the PlayStation 6 console as an all-digital discless console. There's more and more talk that this is the future of video games, where we're going to be seeing discless systems. I think that these companies will never be able to go fully digital, fully discless. I think there will always be a discless version, but I don't think that the fans would let them go exclusively discless at this point. What do you think?
I think there's always going to be a disc component just for the retro gaming part. But that being said, when you get a disc now, it just tells the drive to go online and download the game. There's nothing on the disc anymore. So what's the freaking point, right? Like, I'm personally, I'm tired of being trapped in the digital storefront. I find that it's way too easy to make an impulse buy. It's way too easy. They're reselling stuff and repackaging it in a very deceptive way, which I think is wrong. Because I fell prey to this because I bought Red Dead Redemption for the Xbox, and it turns out like Red Dead Redemption 2. Turns out I already had it, but they didn't have that deluxe version. Right? And I'm not going to phone Xbox and sit on the phone for 3 hours and try and convince them to give me my $20 back or whatever. Like, it's just like, be smarter, Phil. Be smarter. Check your library, because usually they're pretty good at, you own this title, but sometimes they're not. And I worry about the future of video games in that sense, because there is this, when you look at what's going on with most of the old game systems are into these retro systems, which people I see celebrating all over the internet. There's a Dreamcast in there. It's got their full 3DS library. It's got this library. It's got like this catalog of games. And these guys are all like, this is better than having the physical disc because you got all your games on one little box. And I'm like, yeah, we're doing that on the PlayStation and the Xbox already too, right? Like, my virtual library of games, like, I couldn't imagine not having Xbox Game Pass or the PlayStation Pass for the volume of free games that I got. Like, we got Kill the Justice League, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League for free for December or whatever.
Yep.
It's
that was
crazy.
The January game. Yep.
Yeah, it's just nuts. So I'm not shocked that they're trying to lean us this way, but there are huge lawsuits, right, going on in Europe about these things being anti-competitive, like the storefronts, because they can control the prices. They can control everything about it, and they're charging the amount of money that they are for the game. And there's no distribution. There's no middleman anymore. And it's the same price. So that's money that's funneling right into the pockets, which I'm happy. that it's going to the company that made the game. At the same rate, I don't like the idea of Grand Theft Auto 6. Everybody's celebrating the fact, seemingly, it's a weird environment out there. People are really excited about it hitting the $100 mark because they say that that's going to signal all the other games can start charging $100 American. And I'm like, this is getting crazy. Like, you've taken out the full distribution network for getting that disc out there. You're selling it digitally for that price. And it's insane. And then you look at companies like EA that are literally cannibalizing themselves over failed video games like Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which I bought because I couldn't believe how cheap it was at Christmas. And I'm like, that's a relatively new game. I've got all the other ones. Maybe I'll give this a shot since it's so cheap. Downloaded the trial, thought it was okay. Good enough. I'll spend $40 on it. And BioWare, like, they axed that limb off and they said, nope, we're only going to go after Mass Effect 5 now. We're no longer a multi-head studio. We're no longer making multiple projects. We're no longer supporting Veilguard because it was a disappointment. I don't know. Like, the more these companies get big, like EA and Activision and all these companies, it seems the worse they get. Like, it used to be you'd get games on a regular basis from Blizzard, and you don't anymore. The only thing you can count on is Call of Duty every year and like FC whatever, right? Like, and even that failed this year. Apparently FC 25 didn't do so hot on the sales. Shocker.
Yeah, a lot of these games just aren't that good, right? The AAA titles just are not hitting the way that they used to.
Not anymore. And it comes down to one simple thing, and I know this is going to link into another story that we have, obviously our cover story, but it really comes down to, I think they tried to eke too much out of the customer. This live service, games as a service crap, that really sunk Ubisoft, in my opinion. It used to be in the 2000s, you had a Ubisoft game coming up, you got excited. There was like palpable excitement because you knew you were going to get something. There's Beyond Good and Evil was a great game. There was so many different games under that house, right? So much variety. You had Assassin's Creed, you had Splinter Cell, you had Rainbow Six, you had all these games and they were coming out and you were excited. Far Cry, all this stuff under Ubisoft. And then they shitted it all up with NFTs and games as a service. And despite the fans keep on telling them, no, we don't want that. We want, Division 2. We want this. We don't want to be gouged every game about buying another skin or doing whatever, right? Like, it's just constant barrage of here's a $60 or $70 game, and then we're going to nickel and dime you in it. Customers got pissed off and they stopped buying it. And look at what's happening to that company now. They are rocked. And then on top of it, they released absolute dog shit games. Like, one of the Assassin's Creed didn't even work out of the box. Like, they had to release a patch for it, which cheesed me off because that was before the internet was really fast. And you'd have to be downloading like 20 gig on your DSL line, like, oof, just to get the game to work.
That's not, again, that's a whole other thing, right? Just the size of the games are ridiculous at this point.
Oh,
100 gigabytes.
If I wasn't on fiber right now, like, right? I can't. I just sit here and I go, 100 gigs. It'll be in 3 minutes. Like, and just Xbox downloads typically. My PlayStation 5 downloads at a slower speed, but my Xbox generally does a gig a minute or a gig a second. So it's pretty good when the network's working. But it's the same complaints that we always have about this, though. It's like the more integrated a game is, the less independent it is, the more it's dependent on online connectivity, the worse the customer experience is. If you have to wait for a queue to get into your video game, if you have to just a single player game, if you have to do any of this crap just to play a single player game, or, like the other week, well, I guess in December, I went to play Forza Horizon 5 as I do every Thursday night. And sure enough, Xbox Live authentication's down. Took me like an hour to figure out how to access the game in an offline mode. But eventually you could do it, but it couldn't sync the data from the cloud. So I'm like, well, just sync it from your save file. It's like, oh, the game's like, oh, I can do that. Game didn't want to do that. So it was just like, I can't start.
Yeah.
The customer, like, what are these companies thinking we want as consumers? Like, they're leasing us the game. They're not even selling us the game anymore. They're leasing a digital copy to us, a license. They have to be clear about that in California now because there was a lawsuit and they lost. So they're leasing the games to us for a heavy price. There's no middlemen, and still they're so protectionist over it to screw people. It's the consoles. I get it when you need to be protectionist over cracked games or whatever on the PCs, but it's consoles. Come on, man. Just let the people play. And then I don't even know what Sony's doing. Like,
fuck if we don't.
Sony have fucking shit the bed so bad. Excuse my French, but I've never seen a company take a dookie like this. Like, oh, what a mess. And they're still harping on about live service. Drop it, guys. Drop the live service. Go back to single player games. We want to play, single player games that have good stories. That's simple. The online stuff, if it works, like Helldivers 2, hell yeah, great, good for you guys. But concentrate on doing a B game that's like that instead of trying to invent a AAA game that's another bloody goddamn shooter that you're trying to compete with Fortnite. Fortnite's going to win. Hate to tell you, the kids all want to play Fortnite.
Yeah, that's a lot of people's gateway into video games right now, right?
Yeah, it's Fortnite or Call of Duty. Like, it's one or the other. I'm like, pick your poison. And there's nothing wrong with that. Good is good.
No, Sony, I don't know, man. Look, I kind of feel like Microsoft has already hedged its bets on pissing people off, and people are starting to get over it. Sony right now is going through those growing pains that Microsoft was having a few years ago, and Sony is just making a lot of weird decisions with a lot of the Sony games, and it's interesting seeing what's coming up.
And then you've got all the Xbox games going to Sony, right? Because Xbox decided, hey, guess what? There's money on the table because they did it like last year. They released those 4 little itty bitty games, right? Like, and they're like, and then Sea of Thieves was number 1 on the sales charts for Sony. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then now Phil Spencer's like, oh, we're going to announce Forza Horizon 5 is going to go over. So that's going to appear this spring. And you can guarantee Master Chief Collection, stuff like that will all start popping up on. And there's nothing wrong with it, but there's no more exclusives anymore when it comes to an Xbox. Indiana Jones this spring on PlayStation, which is a fantastic game, by the way. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm hearing great things about it. Amazing things. People are saying it's the best Indiana Jones story since the Last Crusade.
Yeah, there's people that say it's better than the movies, the last 2 movies, right?
But to be fair, go think about this. Like, Indiana Jones video games have always been very good. Yeah. This isn't the first one.
No, I have a 360 or an original Xbox Indiana Jones game. There's been a few, man. Mm-hmm. They're
always fun.
Yeah. The most amazing part to me is that the guy got Harrison's voice pretty right. Like, it's the guy from Last of Us.
Yeah.
Troy Baker or whatever.
Troy Baker.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he did such a great job. Like, a great job overall. And as well, something that I really like about it is you get to punch Nazis. That's something important.
Well, you can do that in real life right now. It's not hard.
I know, but then I gotta find Elon Musk. I
Um,
kid.
no, he's not. So yeah. So talking about Sony and like their craziness. So they canceled two unannounced live service games. One from Bend Studio and Blue Point Games. The Blue Point game apparently was going to be a live service God of War game, and then Bend Studios live service game. No one really knows what that was. But fuck, can you imagine if God of War turned into a live service game?
Yeah. And then they canceled Last of Us Online. Remember that? That was another one
Yep.
that they brought in for Destiny to review, and the Destiny crew were like, "No, don't
Yep.
do this." Like, I just can't believe how many times a company can just not get it right and still dump buckets of cash and light it on fire on top. Like what are you guys doing? It's just ridiculous. It's the same as Ubisoft. Let's get a live service game. Let's throw some NFTs into it. Like,
Yeah, we'll
it's
talk
all
about
hot
that in a
words.
second. So, speaking of Sony, they have announced a state of play for next week. That would be the week of February 10th to 14th. Happy Valentine's Day on that one. A lot of people are thinking that we're going to be hearing more news about Ghost of Yotes, as that's the Sucker Punch 2025 game. A lot of people also think we're going to be getting some more information from Naughty Dog's brand new IP, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, which was announced at the Video Game Awards, which looks awesome. People think that we're going to be getting more in-depth previews for Marvel's Wolverine, and maybe a trailer to Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
Oh, interesting. State of plays are always fun, but they don't always have games that are going to release imminently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's typically a long play type of show, right? Same as Xbox in most cases. They just kind of the Xbox thing is becoming its own thing. I'm just amazed at how Xbox, like Microsoft, are starting to dust the dirt off and get on their feet a little bit and start to have some composure and a half decent release bracket. And then to watch Sony just mess this up. I know they'll come back. I know they'll put in a strong, but I gotta say I'm disappointed with this generation as far as Sony goes. There's some good ones, but I just feel like I still I feel like I still haven't pushed my PS5. Like, my PlayStation 4 used to sound like a fighter jet taking off. Like, I knew when I put in Last of Us 2, that thing was processing the crap out of it. It was doing everything it could to not blow up. In fact, it blew up your machine, right?
Blew up my machine. Yep.
Yeah. So I just feel like the PlayStation 5 is just kind of sitting there in quiet mode all the time. And I'm like, I wonder, like, what's going to push this thing? Like, at what point? Because we're starting to talk about PlayStation 6. You know what I mean?
That's
And
the
I'm like,
thing, right? Like, we're not, like, PlayStation 5 came out in 2020. That's 5 years ago, right? This would put us in 2018. PlayStation 4 lasted 7 years. We're on year 5 already. So
yeah, I just don't feel like the library is very big. Like, there was so many remasters and whatnot, and I'm like, really? I just played that game.
but it's also the fact that a lot of games are taking forever to get made at this point, right? So, like, sequels take a long
I
time.
think that goes to kind of what we were talking about overall in the meta way in the conversation here, is that are developers aiming too high to put too many features into a game and then making it bloated and just
Not fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, a victim of itself, where it's just like working so hard on trying to land all of these components that it lands none of them. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Everything's mediocre. It just feels like it's been weird. All right. Because I went back to an old game, one that I was ashamed of and I still am to a large degree. I did cave in and I bought Lollipop Chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
All right. It's a stupid, stupid, stupid game made by James Gunn. All right. The Inside of You the guy who hosts Inside of You, he plays the head in it. So it was funny watching James Gunn and him talking about that video game. And it got me to, I know the game exists. I know it's off base. I know it's really poor. But it was a fun game in the sense that it was fun to just hack and slash and just do stupid stuff and hear stupid comedy. And that's, the games don't have fun anymore from what I can tell. Like, I don't know how many times I'm going to retry playing Tiny Tina in the D&D game that they released, that 2K released, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I'm going to try replaying that and play that and give it a better shot. Just because I need something to make me laugh now. I need the comedy. I need the single player experience. And games don't have the same soul anymore.
No, they don't. They're not fun anymore. It's so hard to find a fun video game right now. It's too much thinking. I just like getting lost in a fun story. It's been so long since I've been able to say that was fun. The other issue that I have with video games, and this I don't know if this is a me thing, if you feel the same way, is I don't have a lot of spare time to play video games.
Yeah.
So I love being able to pick up a game, playing it for an hour, putting it down, and going on about my day, right? You can't do that really anymore. You have to. I am not going to invest 8 to 12 hours playing a video game anymore.
Yeah, you could invest 8 to 12 hours
in one sitting. In one
sitting. No way. No freaking way. No way. I can't sit that still. I gotta pee every hour. Like it's not gonna happen. Not gonna happen because games aren't built that way anymore. Because it used to be that games were built to capture you in the game. All right. It used to be you go to the Blockbuster Video, you'd rent a game, and they hated that we rented them at Blockbuster Video. You get the game for the weekend. They deliberately engineered the game to not be able to be completed in a weekend. Yep. So you'd have to, if you really like the game, you had to go buy it. Right. And then you had to grind it. Now they just build these games to trap kids in them, trap them in an environment, make them grind. That's where we're old. That's when you start getting old. You start recognizing the grind. And the grind ain't fun. No, the grind isn't fun. And
not anymore.
The more game makes you grind, I'm done. I'm out of here.
It takes a special game for me to be able to grind and sit down the 8 to 12 hours in one sitting, of a 100-hour game or whatever, right? That's cool. I can do it. I'm fine with that. But it's hard for me to find a game that I'm invested to that level now, right? It's very few and in between. Legend of Zelda is always able to do it for me. Final Fantasies can get there, but that's pretty much it. Not too many games. Like the Spider-Man games got me there. It takes a special game for me to get The Last of Us.
Yeah, The Last of Us, the first one especially. Oof. But the biggest thing for me as well in this roulette game, like this Russian roulette of video games and the experience and being able to put it down and pick it back up, is I don't want to relearn the controllers. If I have to retake the tutorial in order to play the bloody game, you've lost me. Right? Like either your control scheme is easy enough to follow or accessible enough to get to and understand, or you've done it wrong. And I find that most games right now did it wrong because I just find that they're messing around with the controllers and tweaking and doing all of this fixing of problems that they perceive, and they stray from regular convention. I know you can remap them and do everything, kids. Like, I get it if you invest the time, but I'm just saying if everything's off out of the box, like out of the gate, it really kills the experience for the the casual gamers, because that's what we're complaining about. We're casual gamers now. We're not the invested gamers that are going to sit there and grind and grind and grind. We can, but it's just how accessible the game was. Destiny was really good at being accessible for me. I always understood the button layout because it was an FPS. But some games try to reinvent the wheel and make it their own. And then it's like, well, this doesn't work for me. Like the worst is when I play a game and then I figure out the worst is when I play a game and I figure out that I could have done a move that would have saved me so much time if I would have known the button was there. You know what I mean? If I would have held those two buttons together, then I would have saved half my grind. But anyhow, that's life as you get older too.
Ubisoft held a company call to update shareholders on the first half of performance of fiscal year 2024. So this was back in October. Essentially, year over year, their portfolio has dropped 28.9%. They are in financial hurting. Their live service game was, hyped up. We're talking about X Defiant. And they've quietly stopped talking about that game for many reasons.
Yeah, they've sunsetted it now. I think, what is it, February or March, and it's done. It's going offline.
Yep.
They you can watch the undoing of a game company by how shitty it treats its customers.
Yep.
Ubisoft laid a pattern out that we've documented, but how it treated everyone with decommissioning the crew, how it went in aggressively and removed it from your digital library to never have existed, just shows how little respect the company's C-suite has for its customers. And I just think that they made a lot of, and I don't blame the developers. Like I'm going to say it, but the developers are all trying to make a good game. I get that. And they deserve nothing but praise. But Ubisoft has been rife with decisions made by boardrooms that were more about money than entertainment or art. In my opinion, in my experience with Ubisoft's product. And even though I come on here every time and I say, that's it, I'm done, I'm not buying any more Ubisoft. I bought Outlaws. you know what I mean?
All the time. Yep.
I do say that all the time. And you know what? I keep on going back to the trough. Same as I say, I'm not going to support Bethesda. Guess what? Xbox Game Pass, Indiana Jones comes out, and I'm like, I'm there. I got to download that and play it. And it's good. It's good for, that company to make that. I'm hoping that after Outlaws, which wasn't that bad of a game, it just missed its mark. It shouldn't have been a stealth game. They shouldn't have gone that way with that. And I don't know why nobody in the testing phase or any other approaches had the honesty to say that, or maybe they did and they didn't listen, because they had a very specific agenda about what they wanted to create. But this new Assassin's Creed Shadows that's coming out, this one where it's in Japan, they're trying really hard to shape everyone's opinion about it. They allowed a lot of podcasts and whatnot and people on YouTube to play it for 3 or 4 hours to try and guide them towards giving it a good feeling out there in the world. And at best, I'd say what I've been able to gauge from most places that played it is it's a mediocre game. It's not great. It's Assassin's Creed in Japan. So I'm just like, it's interesting to see the damage control that they're trying to do, because they're done. If this doesn't perform well, they're in a real bad spot, and they're probably going to get bought by Tencent. And then Tencent is just doing like whatever the hell they want. They've ripped off so many video games lately they're just rebranding video games basically and recreating it and just doing soulless hatchet jobs to the industry. So
Yep. That seems to be the Chinese way, right? Like,
yeah, unfortunately it's not, but maybe Tencent and Ubisoft deserve each other. I don't know.
right? March 20th, 2025, Assassin's Creed Shadows. As you mentioned, Phil, this is going to be monumentally important, fundamentally important for Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft. The future really does depend on this game to do well, or else, just like Thanos, it may be gone. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. I hope. Look, I don't like seeing anyone lose jobs.
No.
But like you mentioned, companies pave the way by the way that they treat their customers. And as you know, they have not been listening to customers. They have not been taking their customers' best interest at heart. And sometimes shitty things need to happen to shitty companies like that.
Yeah, it's I think the time is long in the tooth for them at this point. It's it's I don't think the road is very rosy for them. But that being said, the road wasn't very rosy for Star Wars, and then something called Skeleton Crew came out, didn't it?
Yeah, which we will talk about in the next episode.
All right.
Next episode, a couple of things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about Skeleton Crew. I really want to go in depth with that show. I had a lot of fun watching that.
Yeah, it was a good watch.
One of the best Star Wars IPs in a long time. And I also want to talk about AI and specifically what the fuck is this DeepSeek thing and why is it usurping the industry, to say the least.
You get Meta on one hand, that Mark Zuckerberg pours billions of dollars into it, and then this company comes along and says, we spent $5 billion and we can compete.
Funniest shit
it's all
ever.
about the billies, man. It's all about the billies. How much money?
It's the funniest shit ever.
The Chinese company. Oh yeah, we did it for 5.7 million startup.
Yep, we'll get into that. We'll get into why we're laughing and why you should be concerned. And I also want to talk about the environmental things about AI that no one fucking thinks about. When they're making their stupid little images on chatbots and whatnot. Man, like it's the processing power needed for some of this stuff is in fucking insane. So I want to do a deep dive on that. I want to talk about Star Wars. That leads us into next week. But before all of that, Phil, you know what you need to do.
Oh, yeah. You can track us down on our website at www.aplusproductions.com. You can find us on Instagram, X, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook at It's Canon Podcast. You can email us at show@itscanonpodcast.com. You can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you're finding your podcast. You're going to find the It's Canon Podcast. If you can, leave a review, rate it, tell your friends. And, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe, and you'll always know when we drop these crazy shows, usually on Mondays.
Typically speaking, Mondays, 7:30 p.m. is when we go live on Twitch, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. Phil? As always, Geek Therapy, always been a blast, always will be a blast. Hopefully we'll be able to come back soon, continue talking our thing. I'm hoping that we can do this next week, but you've got stuff. You've got stuff.
Yeah, well, I might have one leg up, so see what's happening.
Alrighty, on behalf of Phil, myself, and everyone from the A Plus Productions crew, thank you so much for listening. Thank you. And until next time, stay tranquilo.